Then we're going to go ahead and get into it, all right? All right. Shalom, Israel. You live with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Priest and Captain Soccer War holding down the class live from Memphis, Tennessee. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Since 1969, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge has been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in the year 2024, there is nothing more important than for God's chosen people to learn the truth of who they are, where they come from, and what their purpose is on the earth. So what we like to do with these classes is give brothers and sisters an opportunity to go into this book called the Bible, to gain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Most High has placed inside of this book in order for us to be able to come back to being the people the Lord called us to be and to reclaim our righteous place on the earth as kings, priests, princesses, and daughters of Zion. With that being said, I'd like to start the class off with questions. If any brothers and sisters have questions in the classroom, raise your hand. If there are any brothers and sisters that have questions online, all you have to do is type them in. That includes you brothers and sisters tuning in on TikTok. If you got any questions, all you got to do is type them in, all right? If there are no questions, tonight's breakdown is going to be concerning the story of King David. We're going to go into the story of David and get a full breakdown on David's history, David's rise to power in the nation of Israel, and many of the different situations and circumstances that David faced in his life as a man that really could allow you to see why David was considered a man after the Lord's own heart. If you're someone who don't understand the Bible the way it was meant to be understood, if you read the Bible as though it's a novel or a book with some feel-good stories, you may miss some intricacies that are necessary in order for you to be able to really take the lessons that were intended for us to learn from the stories of the lives of these kings and prophets and men of God that came before us. You understand? When you read the Bible, when you read about King David, and the Bible says that King David was a man after the Lord's own heart, and you read David's story, you may be confused because David was not a perfect man. David was not a man that did all the right things at all times. David wasn't a man who lived a perfect, sinless life. David was a man who fought wars and had a lot of blood on his hands. David was a man who was fully aggressive about taking power and being victorious in battle. So if you don't understand the nature of the Most High, you don't understand the nature of the people he rose up, then you may be confused why David, such an imperfect man, would be considered someone that's after the Lord's own heart. So we're going to give you a full breakdown on the story of David tonight so that everybody can get an understanding of what we should really take and learn from the story of this brother named David, all right? First and foremost, we're going to get the scripture where the Lord said that David was a man after his own heart. All right, so we're going to start with 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 13, all right? And the story of David starts at the ending, really, of the story of King Saul. You understand? David was a brother who was recognized by the Lord because of the failings of the man who the Lord had already chosen. Well, actually, Saul was never the man the Lord had chose. Saul was the man the people had chose. Remember, at one time, the children of Israel were being ruled by judges, right? And the story of the book of Samuel is the beginning of the end of the period of Israel being ruled by judges. Samuel was the last judge to rule over Israel, and it was during Samuel's time as a judge that the children of Israel said, Man, we want to be like the other nations. We want to have a king to rule over us. We don't want to just have to worship the Most High. We want someone who we can look to and say, that's our leader. That's the man that's in charge. That's the man that's over us. And it was so foolish of the children of Israel as a nation to require something like that, because how much greater were we as a nation to have God be our ruler, to have the Most High be the one who was our authority, not a man or a figurehead for us to look up to. And so Saul was chosen to be the ruler over Israel, really to appease the children of Israel. You understand that the children of Israel vexed Samuel as a judge because they didn't want to hear what Sam. They knew that they recognized Samuel as a prophet, recognized Samuel as a God, but they wanted a king. The Lord told Samuel, Samuel, don't take it as a disrespect to you. The children of Israel are not disrespecting you by wanting a king. They're disrespecting me. And so in Israel desiring a king, the Most High gave us Saul. And Saul had a chance to be a king and to be a righteous ruler, but Saul sinned against the Lord. And it was in Saul's sinning against the Lord that the Most High said, this brother's not fit to rule. This brother's not fit to be in power. I'm going to find someone to replace him. And that, the replacing of King Saul, is where the story of David begins. So that's what we're going to start at 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 13. All right. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 13. It says, and Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, which thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. Everybody understands? So the Most High told Samuel, you have not kept what I commanded you, and that is why I am going to have someone replace you, and the man that is going to replace you is a man after my own heart. All right? Now, bear with me, Salaki. So what does that mean about David? What does it mean that David was a man after the Lord's own heart? There's not one scripture that's going to tell you why David was a man after the Lord's own heart. In order to understand why David was a man after the Lord's own heart, we got to get some understanding of who David was. What was his character? What type of brother was he? And what made him special that the Lord chose him to be the king over Israel, all right? So in order to get there, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 16. Let's see something. Let's get 1 Samuel chapter 16, all right? We're going to get 1 Samuel 16 and verse 6, all right? This is where the story of David begins, all right? 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 6. So to bring us up to speed on where we are, to provide some context, the Lord has told Saul, when the Lord told Samuel, go and find a brother that is among the sons of a man named Jesse. Among the sons of Jesse, you're going to find the man that I've chosen to be the king. And Samuel's afraid because Samuel knows that going to anoint another man to be king is going to be like waging war against Saul. So Samuel was apprehensive at first. But the Lord tells Samuel, don't be afraid. Trust me, I got this. Go to the sons of Jesse. You're going to find a man, and I'm going to tell you what to do there. Everybody understands? So it's 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 6. It says, and it came to pass when they were come that he looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Everybody understands? So when Samuel first came to the sons of Jesse, he saw Jesse's oldest boy. Jesse's oldest boy, Eliab, was big and strong and powerful. And Samuel said, surely this is the man the Lord has chosen the most. I said, no, Samuel. Don't look on this brother because of his stature and because of his height and think that's the man that I chose. The Lord said, I don't choose a man based on the outward appearance, but I choose a man based on what's in his heart, what's on the inside. And it's very important for us to understand that that is the way the Most High has always dealt with his people. He looks to see what is inside of you that makes you who you are. We live in a time and a society today where what's on the inside of someone is what gets ignored. We waste too much time paying attention to what's on the outside. When it comes to a man choosing a woman, you brothers pay too much attention to what's on the outside when it comes to choosing a woman, when the Lord said he looks on the inside. A lot of you sisters out there, you look at a man and choose a man based off of what we got, or based off of how good he looks, or based off of what he can give you. When the Lord said that he judges a man based on what's on the inside. Very rarely do we take the Lord's approach, and when we observe someone, we really get to examine who they are on the inside. Not enough time is taken to really learn somebody and understand them and to know what they think, to know what their morality is, to know how, where their mind takes them. And that's what's important when it comes to choosing someone, whether you're choosing someone to be a leader, choosing someone to be a spouse, choosing someone to trust. We should take the approach the Lord takes by examining the inside, right? Now, why was it important that the Lord told Samuel this? Because as we're going to read, David was not anyone that man would have chosen to be a ruler. David was a brother that would have been discarded, would have been ignored, would have been overlooked. And that is what adds to the character of David. Because this is a brother, as we're going to read, he was the last of his father's children. And being born during that time in the nation of Israel, any family, you come from a family with a lot of brothers and sisters, being the youngest is like being the runt. It's like being the one that's, forgotten or overlooked. Nobody expects nothing great from the youngest. A lot of the weight and the pressure, hell, a lot of the inheritance of the family is what's passed to the firstborn. You the last born in a long line of brothers and sisters. It's like, man, you gonna get the short end of the stick. Now, it may be not backwards in society today. What I'm talking about is in terms of, inheritance and what you're going to receive from your parents. And during these times, the firstborn is the one that received the bulk of the inheritance from their mothers and their fathers. So all the goods that was passed down from the family was given to the eldest. So the youngest was largely overlooked. But that's part of what made David a man after the Lord's own heart. David was the brother that nobody really expected much from. David was the cat that nobody was paying attention to. But while nobody was paying attention and nobody really was acknowledging him, the Lord saw that this is a brother who has the stuff that the Lord related to, the things that the Lord could be proud of. We're going to learn more about that reading further. So let's go 1 Samuel 16, verse 8. We're going to keep reading now. Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, neither have the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither have the Lord chosen this. Again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord have not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. Now, Jesse went and got all his sons, right? Brought them before Samuel. Samuel didn't choose none of the brothers that he brought before him. And Samuel like, is these all the children you got? Even David's own father was like, I got my boy to keep the sheep out there, but he ain't nothing. He nobody. Even David's father in the flesh overlooked him. Didn't even think to bring him before Samuel. Samuel said, man, you better go get that boy because we ain't sitting down to eat until you go get him. I can't, I came here to do a job and we can't break bread until I get to see this boy. Verse 12, and he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look to. Now when it says that he was ruddy, meaning David had a soft demeanor. David wasn't some rough, hardcore, tough looking cat. David was a young boy who looked like he was a young boy. He wasn't about that life. He wasn't about no violence or no, beefing. He was out there with the sheep in the field. He wasn't anybody that someone would look to, not seriously, but look at as a threat. But when Samuel saw the brother, David said, "This is who the Lord has chosen." The man that everybody would have overlooked, the young boy that nobody would have thought twice about, was the man that the Lord chose. We're going to find out why. Verse 13, then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. Everybody understand? So the Lord anointed David. And when Samuel anointed David, that made David the king over Israel. That oil being poured on his head, that anointing by the judge over Israel, the man of God at that time, was a sign and a symbol to everybody that this is the brother whose spirit the Lord is with. You understand? And again, this is the beginning of the story of David. But as we read further, we're going to unfold, the story is going to unfold on what it is that David had in his heart that made him someone that was special to the Lord. Everybody understands. Now, I got a brother asking a question in the chat. All right. Truth be told says, Deuteronomy 4:19 says, you are not to worship stars. So what is that star, David? Let me bring this cat on the chat. He asked to be accepted into the chat. I'm going to deal with this question real quick in the middle of this breakdown of David. We're going to get right back to it. Truth be told, you there? You got a question, right?
I actually had you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you originally, my question was in regards to Ezekiel 27:13.
All right, let's get Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 13. You want me to read it first, or you want to ask your question first?
You could go ahead. Well, here goes my question is that most Hebrew Israelites that I know that you guys your beliefs are that you guys believe in the white race, European white race, from what I'm hearing, that you guys believe that they're descendants of Edom.
All right, so let me real quick before I answer that, let me first make a distinction, right? We are not Hebrew Israelites. That's a very general, broad term that applies to a lot of people that believe a lot of different things. We are the Israelite school of the universal practical knowledge under commanding General Yohanan since 1969. All right. And so it's important that I establish that distinction because I don't know what Hebrew Israelites believe, but I do know what we teach in the ISUPK. All right.
Do you teach about Edom?
So in the
white race,
I'm gonna break it down. In the ISUPK, the children of Edom are the enemies of the children of God. And the children of God are, let me finish. The children of God are so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Do you understand?
You claim them as being wrong.
No, we don't. Okay. Again, I'm answering your question. The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge teaches that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the descendants of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. The Bible tells us that their enemies are the children of Edom, the children of Esau. So historically, Edom and Esau have gone under many different banners, been named after many different, have had many different names and racial and ethnic identities. Today, they are the oppressors of so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So who are the oppressors of our people in this land today? That's who the children of Esau are. You understand?
Right. So then I'm just trying to make sure that we're pinpointing the fact that you're calling the descendants of Edom who were overthrown. They were neighboring Jerusalem in AD 70, 40 years after. Yeah. So then they were actually allies at that time to the Hebrew Israelites, but they were taken over by the Roman Empire as well.
Says who? Where are you getting that history from? Who told you that?
No, that's actual historical record. Edom was bordering Israel.
Listen to my question. Listen to my question, brother. You just said that in the year 70 AD, when Israel was overthrown by the Romans,
Edom also was taken over.
Okay.
They were bordering
Edom,
Israel
okay.
at that time.
Edom, right? The land of Edom was also taken over. Right?
Correct.
What does the land of Edom being taken? Hold on. What does listen to me question. Listen to me carefully. What does the land of Edom being taken over have to do with the children of Esau, the children of Edom? Are the people in the land synonymous?
Let me explain. No, this is what.
No. Answer the question real quick. I'm gonna let you go. Are the people in the land synonymous?
This is synonymous. Synonymous is this: is that the people that you say that took over Israel was the Roman Empire, right? Okay, so how did the Roman Empire that was already grown? That's why I told you to look at that verse, Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 13.
Okay, so let's get Ezekiel 27, 13.
Tubal and Meshach were the foundation of the pagan Greece Empire. As we know what happened with Greece. Alexander the Great took over Macedonia to Egypt in a short period of time. He died with fever. Then his 4 generals took over: Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seculus. And then from those 4 generals, the Roman Empire was formed.
Okay.
So then, when we know as the year as the Son of Man, I'm not going to go off of names or whatever, but the Son of Man, who they say was executed by the Roman Empire, who of which Ananias and Cephas, Judas Iscariot's uncles, they were appointed by the Roman Empire to be the Sadducees and the Pharisees that betrayed the Son of Man.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that the Roman Empire was the strongest empire at that time. They defeated Media and Persia.
Okay.
Previously, they were the strongest empire. They took over Egypt.
Okay.
How can they have become Edom?
Okay, here's how.
The Roman Empire. Hold on, let me finish. The Roman Empire, they became pagan Rome, and then from that point, pagan Rome became the papacy. All of them became the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, the pagan Roman Empire, disguised themselves as Catholics. They were even in the time of Apostle Paul, who was a Benjamite. The Roman Empire were turning themselves into like secret agents. They were acting like they were brothers following the Messiah to set them up to kill them. That's what I'm saying. Like this whole time, right? The Roman Empire expanded and grown.
So hold on.
At that point, after they became
now, brother,
10 Germanic tribes of Europe, 10 Germanic tribes of Europe, right?
Brother,
there was no mention of Edom.
Brother, so all right, so your original question, right, was how could your original question was if Edom was taken over in 70 AD along with the land of Israel, how can we say that Rome is Esau, right, or Edom? And then you went on a long tangent, giving me the whole history of the Roman Empire, the whole history of the time during Christ and the Pharisees and Sadducees. Let me finish. I let you talk for about 3-4 minutes, brother, and you gave a whole historical rundown. And now I'm going to give you the answer to every. I'm going to give you what you're missing. I'm going to give you what you're missing. You asked a question, right? I'm the teacher in the class. You're asking me a question. You're a student waiting for an answer, correct? Or is that not what's happening right here?
I follow scripture.
Did you ask a question and are you waiting for an answer? Yes or no?
Yeah, I wanted to see your viewpoint because I want to know how is it that you guys say that they're Edom, because if you pay attention.
So can you, as I give you the answer to your question, are you going to be quiet or no?
I want to explain something to you.
You don't have to explain anything, brother. Listen, you just explained for 3 minutes, brother, and I'm going to respond to you now, but I need you to be quiet. No, there is no before I say anything. I just let you talk for 3 minutes straight, brother.
I just want to point one thing.
I don't need you to point anything out. I need to answer your question about Esau.
I didn't get to explain to you the unfolding of that term Edom.
Brother, I don't need you to explain the unfolding of anything.
No, let me ask you one quick question.
Brother, you already asked me 3 questions. Can I answer the first question?
No, brother. The word Edom is being considered by the European Jews, right? By the Yiddish-speaking Jews. They call them Rome. That's what Edom means to them, right? It's Rome, right?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because that means that you're Hebrew Israelite. You're saying, but you're dark-skinned. You're following the same belief of them.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Where are you getting that from? We're not following the belief of white Jews. I never said that Esau was Rome. You said that. You're not even letting me. That's what I'm saying, brother. You got a lot of assumptions, and you ain't even let me answer your first question. How the hell you gonna come on here and tell me what I believe, what we teach, when you ain't even let me answer what we teach?
Israel in AD 70 when they were taken over.
Brother, what does that have to do with what anything?
That's how they were managed to lay siege to Jerusalem temple.
Listen to me, brother, and I'm going to answer you now.
You're really saying that they're your brother?
No, we're not. We're not saying they're our brother.
Israelites, the Jews, the Jewish people.
Go ahead.
They let the Pope sit inside of their synagogue. You're following their.
What does that have to do with anything, brother? What does that have to do with anything?
The fact is that the origin of the white race comes from Japheth and his 7 sons.
Okay.
It does not come from.
No, it does not. You're wrong on that. The origin of the white race is not Japheth and his sons. Now I'm going to quiet you. All right. So I'm going to answer this brother's question because he's asking a very simple question and there's a very simple answer, right? His preface is that how can the children of Edom or Esau be the white race today when the Roman Empire conquered the land of Edom the same time it conquered the land of Israel? My first response to the brother was, does the land of Edom, who was even living in the land of Edom during the time when the Romans took it over? The reason why I asked that question is because when you talk about empires and nations and conquering other lands, you have to separate the land from the racial makeup of the people living in the land. We talk about the Roman Empire. My question to the brother was going to be, what race was the Romans? And you want to know what answer he cannot give me? He cannot tell me what race the Romans were because there is no race of Rome. The Romans were a military nation where anybody who they conquered could be a part of their military. Just like today in America, the United States military, what race is the U.S. military? What race is the United States Marines? What race is the U.S. Navy SEALs? What race are the Green Berets in England? There's a difference between the land and the race of people. So historically, in the land of Edom, during the time when Jerusalem was conquered in 70 AD, there was a lot of different races of people living in that land. So Edom being conquered the same time Israel was conquered, and let's keep in mind also, 70 AD was a specific event because it was the destruction of Jerusalem. It wasn't just the conquering of Israel, it was the conquering of our capital city where only Israelites were supposed to be living. But what was going on in Israel during that time? It wasn't only Israelites living in the land of Israel. Israel had been occupied by Romans for 4 or 5 generations. The entire life of Christ, Israel is being ruled by heathens. Among the Pharisees and Sadducees, the makeup of the governors over Jerusalem are heathens. So when you talk about the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, you got to account that there were heathens in the land as well. During the uprising, we killed the heathens that were among us. So when Jerusalem got when Jerusalem got conquered in 70 AD, that was the end of Israel as a governing nation. But it wasn't the end of the Israelite people. Just like if Edom got conquered by the Romans, that wasn't the end of Edom as a people. Might have been the end of them in the land. What he doesn't know is that during the days of the Greeks, during the rise of the Macedonian Empire, King Philip, who was the father of Alexander the Great, was an Edomite that was chosen to fight in the Macedonian army. And because they were Edomites and had the blood of the savages that came out of the caves, they were able to rise to power and authority in Macedonia and over the Greeks. But cats like this that don't know the history and the distinction between the land and the race of people will look and say, Edom got conquered, so the Edomite people disappeared. You are a fool. You are a fool. You don't know the Bible. You don't know the scriptures, and you don't know history. Even among Israel today isn't a race. Meaning what? In the ISUPK, this is what we teach. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the chosen people of God, right? We are the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And does that mean because you have brown skin and you're born in America, you're an Israelite? No. There's devils that look just like me. There's heathens look just like me and you. It isn't a racial thing. It's a spirit. You understand? And knowing that when you learn the truth about being an Israelite, the evidence that you are an Israelite is that you will change your life and begin to obey the Most High and do what he said to do. But there are a lot of brothers who learn the truth about being Israelites, and because they refuse to stop doing drugs, because they refuse to let go of their Christianity, because they refuse to let go of their love of heathen nations, they won't accept that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the children of Israel and their oppressors are the children of Esau, because maybe their mother is an oppressor. Or maybe their girlfriend is an oppressor. The white man ain't Esau, he's Japheth. Right. So now you can have sex with Japheth, right? So now you can love Japheth. But the scriptures don't say you can't love Japheth. Right. Scriptures don't say you can't, in his mind, you can't marry a Japhite. It's the Edomites that you can't deal with. So, of course, the white man can't be Esau. He's got to be somebody else, because actually Esau was killed and destroyed during 70 AD. Brother, you don't know the Bible. You don't know history. And we are not at all related or associated with the man that calls himself a Jew at all. Everybody understands. Look at some of these comments. That is true. Just because the people are conquered doesn't mean they're wiped from the land. Brother Sharif Wade, you right. Atlantic City said the brother was scared. That's why he didn't want me to answer the question. He knew the cut was coming, and it's a very simple, easy to explain thing. When you're dealing with the Bible, when you're dealing with the history of this people called Israel, you have to look beyond the surface level. You got to look, if you're going to look at history, you got to be objective. You can't be looking at history to find what you want to find. Look at the history of all the races on the planet. Slavery exists everywhere. Wars have been being fought. Nations have been being conquered. Races don't disappear off the earth. All of the fighting, you go look at the Mongolian Empire with Genghis Khan. He conquered the whole Asian continent. Korea never stopped being Koreans because they got conquered by the Chinese. Japan never stopped being Japanese because they got conquered by the Chinese. When Japan fought back and went over there and was conquering China and raping and killing, the Chinese never stopped being a people. Just because empires rise up and fall doesn't mean the people disappear. The same thing with America. These oppressors came to this land, found the people that were living here, established society and civilization, conquered them, raped them, put them in slavery and captivity. Here we are 400 years later. Those people haven't disappeared. The Native Americans aren't gone as a race. They were reclassified as Negro, reclassified as African American, reclassified as when you go to fill out a job application, they ask you, are you black, white, or Hispanic? Latino. You reclassified. But they never stopped being a people. It's foolish to think Esau, Edom doesn't exist no more because the Romans conquered the land. That's a foolish question, but the brother didn't want to answer. And you see why, because the answer was very simple. There's a difference between the land and the people. Esau is the oppressor on the earth today. He is the devil that the Bible speaks of. There's a prophecy that Esau would be the end of the world and Jacob would be the beginning of it that followeth. That's in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54. If you want the history of Esau and them being the oppressors and them being in power on the earth, you can get the breakdown. But you got to, if you come to this classroom, respect that you're a student and I'm the teacher. If you got a question, we're going to answer your questions. But show us the same respect you would show, in Esau's classroom. You go to a college, you go to a university, there's a professor teaching, you raise your hand and ask the professor a question. When the professor begins to answer, you don't interrupt him. You don't try to interject and teach the class over the professor. Well, show us the same respect. I don't go into no classroom and I ask a question. I'm asking a question out of respect to say, teacher, you teaching, can you answer this question? Now, if the teacher can't answer, hey, he can't answer. But if you're asking a question, show the teacher the respect that he deserves and give him time to be able to answer. That's all we ask. Everybody understand? All right. Brother Sharif Wade asked, are you brothers aware of the prophecy of zombies in the Bible? That's my question. Brother Sharif, zombies in the Bible? No. There is no prophecy of zombies in the Bible. All right. Now, you may be referring to Revelations where it talks about the dead in Christ will rise first. But I promise you, brother, that is not talking about zombies. All right. So, Brother Sharif, just give me the scripture you're asking about that shows the prophecy of zombies, and I can read it and break it down for you. And I'll show you that it's not what you think it is. Everybody understands? Now, if the brother Sharif doesn't have a specific scripture, we're going to get back into the breakdown of tonight's class which is the story of David. So where we left off was in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16, when David was anointed by Samuel to be the king. And again, the scripture said that David was a man after the Lord's own heart, right? David, part of what made David a man after the Lord's own heart is that David was a brother that was overlooked. David was a brother that was, doubted, right? His own father didn't include him in the brothers and the sons when Samuel came and said, I'm looking for one of your boys because the Lord wants to raise him up, right? So David was the underdog. The Lord loves an underdog. The brother that's counted out that nobody thinks anything special of, that's the brother who the Lord is looking at. And that goes all the way back to Israel as a nation. The Lord chose us as a nation not because we were great and mighty and powerful, not because we were among the most elite and the most powerful of the nations, but because we were so small and so young and really few in number. That's how the Lord deals with things. Everybody understands? Come on, Josh.
Quick with that, and like the Lord picking so He can show His power, like
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the Lord chooses that way because the Lord wants to get the praise. The Lord wants to get the acknowledgement that He deserves. Everybody understands? Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7, all right? This scripture pertains to David and part of why David was a man after the Lord's own heart, right? The Lord told Samuel, don't look on the outward appearance. That's not what the Lord does. The Lord looks on the inward appearance. Everybody understand? The Lord looks at the heart. He examines the character of a person, right? And the Lord did the same thing when He chose Israel as a nation. Let's get Deuteronomy 7 and 7, all right? Deuteronomy 7 and 7 says, the Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you because you were more because you were more in number than any people. For ye were the fewest of all people. Everybody understands? The Lord chose Israel because we were the fewest of all people, because we were such a small nation. The Lord saw something amazing in this people that are so few in number. The Lord saw something strong in this people that were so few in number. The Lord was moved to compassion because Israel was such a small nation among all these other people. The same with David. David was the youngest son of a man who nobody really paid attention to, who everybody overlooked. He looked like he was soft young cat. The Lord knew that he was a soldier, knew that he was a warrior. Everybody understands. Now let's read on. We're gonna go back now to 1 Samuel, and we're gonna go. Hold on. 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 23. All right. David was anointed while he was still a very, very young man. But the time when David rose to prominence or rose up to be seen by the people was during the time when Goliath challenged the children of Israel. So what the Lord had already seen in David, the people were able to see beginning with the challenge of the Philistines against the Israelites. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23. This is when David gained recognition with man, even though he had already gained the recognition with the Lord some time ago. Ash, if you could read 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23.
It's a book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 23. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of God, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spoke to the men and stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is the uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him, after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab, his oldest brother, heard he spoken to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down here? And with whom hast thou left those sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy naughtiness in thy heart, for thou art coming down that thou might see the battle.
Now, so the Philistine coming for the children of Israel. And Goliath's challenge was, if any of you among the army of Israel will come see me on this battlefield today, we can decide the battle right now. It ain't got to be an all-out war. It could just be me versus whoever your strongest warrior is. And all the men in the army were afraid. They were scared as hell to fight this Philistine. David, being the cat that he was like, y'all niggas tripping. Y'all scared of him? Hell no. Nah. What do we get if we kill him? And they tell, listen, the man that killed him get riches and wealth, and the king will make you his right-hand man. David's brother come and check him like, man, what's like you instigating. Right. Man, little nigga, what you doing down here, man? You always starting some shit. That's why your pride and your naughtiness. You just trying to see a fight, man. Stop trying to egg this shit on. You get up out of here. Go back to the sheep. Go back to the wilderness. Any of you brothers, if you're the oldest brother and you have little brothers, right? You know what it's like to have a little brother that think he about that life or he about something. You trying like, little man, you ain't ready for this. Get in the house. Imagine there was a time where you being a big brother, you got to do some things in the streets. You got to do some things in the world. You got little brothers that look up to you. And they trying to follow after your footsteps, and you trying to tell them, man, listen, man, stay on the porch. Stay in the house. You don't need to be out here in these streets. There's David in these streets. You understand? And David was that little brother. David was like, nah, man, y'all acting scary. Somebody should do something about this Philistine. And David's brother like, man, get your little ass in the house. You shut your mouth. You know what you're talking about. But they didn't understand that, no, David was really about that life. So let's keep on reading. Where we have 1 Samuel chapter 17, what? And 29. All right.
This is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 29. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned him towards another and spoke in the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner.
So David said, man, why you tripping? You mad at me for no reason. I'm trying to find out why y'all scared. I'm trying to find out why nobody want to step to this Philistine. You understand? Stick Talk in the chat is saying that the children of Israel had already lost battles, you understand, against the Philistines. That's why they was afraid. You on it a little bit, but really the children of Israel were afraid because of the stature of Goliath, because of how big and strong this Philistine was. You understand? And they didn't have any faith. They didn't have that thing. They didn't have that spirit of the Lord to not be afraid. David wasn't a brother that looked on the outward appearance. David was like the Lord looking at the inside. Man, this cat is a sucker. This African ain't got nothing on us, man. This Philistine can't stand before the children of the Lord. We're the children of God. Right. Who's scared of him? Right. That was the spirit that they needed to be in. David had that spirit. You understand? David had that warrior thing in him. I don't care how big you are. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's spiritual. To look at a man and to measure him up and not be afraid of how big he is, that was a spirit that David had that the army did not. Everybody understand? Now let me get on. Hold that. Read. Hold on. Let's read it. We got to read why David had this spirit, all right? Because this all plays into David being a man after the Lord's own heart. Let's keep reading. Let's read 1 Samuel 17, and we're going 31 right now, Ash.
It's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 31. And when the words were heard which David spoke, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth.
Now again, David is being doubted. And he heard the words of David. They went and told the king, man, it's this young cat talking shit. Excuse my language. This young cat talking trash. Talking about he want to go fight the Philistine. Saul said, bring him to me. David came before him and said, man, y'all don't need to be afraid. I'll go fight the Philistine. And the king said to David, nah, little man, you can't go fight him. You a boy. He's a man of war. Doubting again. Looking on the outward appearance, not looking at the courage and the zeal this young cat got to want to go and fight. Keep reading.
Verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and I took a lamb out of the flock.
No, so like the lion and the bear and took a lamb out of the flock.
And took a
the lion and the bear took a lamb out of the flock. All right, keep reading.
35. And I went out after him, and I smote him, and delivered out his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. 36. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he have defied the armies of the living God.
David said, man, listen, I've been keeping my father's sheep. And the lion and the bear came out to take these sheep. And guess what? I went and killed that lion and killed that bear. Because I'm not going to let anybody violate what belongs to the Lord. Or I'm not going to let anything violate what belongs to me. David said, if the Lord was with me to kill the lion and the bear, the Lord will be with me to kill this big Philistine, seeing he's defied the armies of the living God. David understood this wasn't just any army. This wasn't just any gathering of men of war. This was the army of the Lord. David understood the Lord ain't going to let us be shamed before this heathen. That was spiritual. You understand? David's zeal wasn't, I know I could kill him, I could beat him. David was, man, the Lord is with me. And that is necessary and important in any battle, in any fight that you're going to have. You have to know that the Lord is with you. You understand? Part of what makes you confident in the Lord being with you is you knowing that you're doing what the Lord requires of you. David understood that he was a man that was living right by the Lord. So David fully expected the Lord to be on his side. We have to be the same way. To have the zeal that David had, you also have to have confidence in your faith that the Lord will be with you because you're standing with the Lord. Everybody understands? Let's keep reading.
37. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with you.
Saul heard that and said, young brother, you right. You're righteous. Your spirit is honorable. You go and let the Lord be with you. Everybody understands. And that let the Lord be with you is something that has been echoed and mocked by many of the other nations on this earth throughout many generations. You know what I'm saying? You think of Star Wars with the let the force be with you. That's this right here. You think of Avengers, the Avengers assemble. That's the Lord be with. That's may the Lord be with you. Give me some other ones. What's some other ones that they use? Them statements of empowerment. Give me some more. You got Star Wars, may the force be with you. What's some more? What's some more of them slogans that they like to throw out there and give you empowerment or to make you feel comforted? That comes from the Bible. That comes from David and Goliath. But don't forget, don't leave out the part that it was the Lord that was with David that gave him that strength. It was the Lord with David that had him zealous to go and kill this giant. Everybody understands? Now, let's stop right there and let's drop down to hold on. Man, let's drop down to verse 45. All right. Let's get it. We're gonna skip the part of all of the trash talking between David and Goliath. All right. We're gonna drop straight down to the battle. All right. Let's get uh 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. Let's read.
It's the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. Then David said to the Philistine, thou comest to me with the sword and with the spear and with the shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the hosts of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you unto our hands.
You know what I'm saying? David understood that the victory in this battle was going to be the Lord's victory. And that's important to understand in any battle, even in physical competition. A lot of that, what takes place in the physical battle, is who's the Lord with. You could have all the training and all of the lifting weights and push-ups and sit-ups and power cleans and RDLs. You could have all of that. If the Lord ain't with you, you're gonna get knocked the hell out. You can get your ass whooped. Excuse my language. You can have all the training, all the boxing, all of the MMA, and you'll run up against a cat that ain't been in the gym, ain't been training, ain't been all of that. And if the Lord is with him, he'll knock you the hell out. You understand? Having said that, David was trained though. David knew what he was doing. David wasn't no man that wasn't a warrior. Everybody understands. So don't. It's not to say that there's nothing to working out and being in shape and training, but that isn't what gives you the victory. What gives you the victory is who's the Lord with, and that is a major aspect to life that largely gets missed. David wasn't great because of how much training and how much how good he was with them stones. David was great because David trusted in the Most High. David's courage came from, man, the Lord with us. The Lord is with this army, and he ain't with you. He can't be with you because you a heathen. You live, you eat pork. You have sex with, hoes. You get high. The Lord can't be with you. The Lord gotta be with me because the Lord wants the victory. The Lord doesn't want to give glory to some disgusting, nasty bastard that don't do what he said to do. The Lord gonna give me the victory because I'm gonna honor the Lord in this. I'm letting it be known. You got your shield and your sword and your goddamn all your armor, and it ain't gonna help you because you coming up against the Lord. And David went out there with just his stones and his slingshot. David ain't go out there with no armor and no sword. Saul tried to give David his armor. David said, "Nah, I can't go and fight in your armor. I got to go fight with the tools that's been given to me." David went out there with stones and a slingshot and slew this heathen in the name of the Lord. Everybody understands? Let's go ahead and read. We read this far. We got to read the killing part. We can't skip over the killing. Let's go ahead and get the death of this giant. Go ahead.
This is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 48. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hasted and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took there a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead and he fell upon his face to the earth.
Now I need everybody to paint this picture in your mind, right? Anybody seen the movie Troy? Right? The movie Troy is an excellent way for you to visualize David and Goliath. In the movie Troy, the first scene of Troy, it's a battle that's very much like the Philistines facing off against the children of Israel. And there's this big giant, the kings of the army say, "You send your best man, we'll send our best man," right? One army sends out this big giant cat, the other army sends out Achilles, right? Achilles was a cat that wasn't even really, okay, I'm saying all this to say, the first scene in Troy is based off the Bible. The movie Troy, that first scene is based off of David and Goliath. And when the giant Philistine came to meet David, David ran up to him, but as David is running, again, he ain't got no armor. He ain't got no sword, no shield, no spear. As David is running, take the stone out of his bag, put it in his slingshot while he's running, and throw the slingshot and hit the giant in the head with the rock. There's no way Goliath knew what was coming. There's no way he knew what the hell was going on, because what the hell is kid doing running at me? Before he knew anything, before any blows could be thrown, The rock was in his head. Goliath was on the ground. The battle was over. And that's what happened in the first scene of Troy. In the first scene of Troy, the cat Achilles come out. He ain't got no armor. He just run at the cat. The cat ready to battle with him. He run up to him. He stab him, and the battle was over. That's David and Goliath. Everybody understands. All right, let's keep on. Let's read to the end when when David triumphed and was praised by the people. All right.
This book is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 50. So David prevailed over the Philistine with the sling, with the stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof and slew him and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And when the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until they come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron, and the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Shemaim, even to Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent.
David took this giant's armor as a trophy. Took his head and brought it to Jerusalem. You understand? So how was this display of courage and fearlessness and a warrior spirit an example of David being a man after the Lord's own heart? Hmm? Let's get Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. All right. Get Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. Exodus chapter 15, verse 3 reads, "The Lord is a man of war, the Lord is his name." All right. If you read it here, if we put in the Most High's name, Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. What does the Most High's name in Hebrew mean? His name means the Most High. Everybody understand? If you break down Yahweh, Yahweh means the Most High, meaning there's nothing higher than him. And he is a man of war. David was a man of war. David was no coward. David was no sucker. David was no chump. David was a man after the Lord's own heart. Everybody understands? David, even though he was small, even though he was doubted, even though people overlooked him, what was inside of David was the spirit of the Lord, the courage of the Lord. The same way that the Lord chose Israel, not because we were such a great people, but because we were so few in number, the Lord chose David because he was that small cat, the youngest of his father's sons, the one that was overlooked, the one nobody expected anything from. Everybody understands? All right, let's drop that. So, David won. David triumphed in battle, and David was recognized by the children of Israel. And what took place over the next few years of David's life was a game of cat and mouse that David didn't understand was being played. David knew that he had been anointed, right, to be king of Israel. But David still was the harp player in King Saul's house. Before the day that he killed Goliath, David was the music bearer for King Saul. So he was close to the king, lived in the king's house. You understand? Played music for the king when the king got up in the morning. During these days, they ain't have no record player. So when the king wanted to hear some music, there was a cat that sat around with a guitar ready to play some music. So when the king would come in his room, instead of saying, "Hey Siri, play for me, whatever," Saul would say, "Hey David, man, play that jam for me." That's who David was prior to him killing Goliath. After that, David was recognized as being a warrior and a soldier. Saul knew. So when Saul learned that this was the cat that had been anointed by Samuel, Saul wanted to kill David. And there were many years that David was in the company and in the presence of Saul, that Saul hated David and wanted to kill him, but Saul could not because of how dishonorable it would be, right? But then it came to a point where Saul's hatred for David couldn't be hidden anymore. That Saul's, the challenge of David being to overthrow him was too much for Saul, and the nation of Israel fell into a civil war. And there's a war between the children of Benjamin and Saul, and the children of Judah and David. It wasn't a war with. It really wasn't a war between an all-out war between Judah and Benjamin, but it's like two cats beefing, and they family got their back. So it wasn't like Judites and Benjamites killing each other when they seen each other, but it was Saul and David beefing. And if you with Saul, nigga, what's up? And if you with David, it's like, oh, you riding with him. That was this all-out division. Now, David being a man of war, there were many, many opportunities that David had to kill Saul. But David was such a brother that David did not take the opportunities that he had to kill Saul, right? So David was what? David was extremely loyal. Loyal even to a man that wanted to kill him. David, instead of taking vengeance, instead of killing Saul, David displayed mercy. And that is one of the Lord's greatest strengths, is the ability to be merciful, to be forgiving, to not want to just to give someone an opportunity to repent, to ask for forgiveness. And that is what David expressed to Saul. All right. Let's get 1 Samuel chapter 24. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 24. Let's see. Hold on. Hold up. All right, let's read 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1. I'm gonna break it down, all right? I'll read it for time's sake, all right? 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1, it says, And it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. So David and his men are on the run. They up in the rocks where the wild goats are, meaning what? They're in mountainous terrain. The wild goats like to live on mountains. You might go look at the nature channel. You go look at stories of goats in the Middle East over there in them like Afghanistan. You'll see a mountainside, right? Be a steep mountain. You'll see a goat standing on a 2-inch cliff. Goats climbing up the rocks up the side of the mountain to get all the little grass that's growing on the side of the mountain. So in the Bible, that's why it's describing David and his men hiding in the rocks of the wild goats, meaning they up in the steep mountain, up in the caves and the rocks. Everybody understands. Verse 3, and he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. So as Saul and his men are pursuing David and them, they come to a place where the sheepcotes are, meaning where there's a shepherd that, like where they make wool, right? The sheepcotes is there. The same place where Saul goes to lay his head for the night or to warm up for the night is a cave where David and his men are already there. They already hiding in this cave. Verse 4, and the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it seemed good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily, meaning David could have killed Saul, could have destroyed him. The Lord had promised the Lord had promised David, I'm going to deliver your enemies into your hand, and you can do with them what you will. The Lord gave it to David. This is my gift to you for being righteous, for being honorable. Do what you want with your enemy. And David having Saul right there could have ended the war, could have ended the battle. David decided to send a message. David decided to have mercy on Saul. David decided to be a brother to the man who wanted him dead because David looked at him like a brother. Everybody understands? Let's keep reading. Verse 5, and it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him because he had cut off Saul's skirt. It's saying a skirt, but the skirt is what is old English for like an undergarment. So today, right, a priest would have, we talked about the priest's garment, right? How there would be a robe and an ephod. The skirt was like the robe underneath the garment, right? So think Saul is sleeping. He's sleeping. It's not a skirt like a woman wears, but it's his clothes he's wrapped up in to go to sleep in. David cut a piece off of that to let Saul know, nigga, I could have had you, I didn't do you like that. Kapatazar.
So like I said, what does that mean when it said David's heart smote him? What does that mean?
David was hurting his heart, hurting his chest.
Oh.
There was smoke in his chest, like someone hit you in your chest. You ever heard somebody say, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks? That's what it's describing. Okay. Smote in his heart. David was pained in his chest because he felt bad about cutting off Saul's skirt. Meaning, David knew that this was going to be a great insult to Saul. And it hurt David to know that he's hurting the brother. And that it's hurting David that he's even in the situation in the first place. So David, after cutting the skirt off and leaving, he's still hurt because it's like, man, I shouldn't even be beefing with this cat. We shouldn't even be going through this right now. Anybody that's ever really been in the streets and been in the violent situations, when you beefing with somebody, there's always a time where you might feel like, man, I wish we didn't have to do this. Yeah. Nobody that's ever really been in street beef to where it's like, if you see a nigga, somebody got to die. Anyone that's ever been in that situation will tell you there is a moment where you wish, I wish it wasn't somebody got to die. But if somebody got to die, it ain't going to be me. But I wish it didn't have to be that. Any real nigga that's ever been in any real life or death situations will tell you that is a stressful way to live your life. It is absolutely terrifying every day to leave your house with a loaded gun, riding dirty, knowing that I'm going to have to take somebody's life or somebody's going to take mine. That's not fun. That's not exciting. That's not no, I'm a gangster. Nah, that's a horrible life. That was David's life. Everybody understands. And David, in that moment, was hurt that I could have killed this cat. I should have killed this cat, but I can't. I can't do it. Everybody understands. Reading on 1 Samuel 24:6, and he said unto his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul arose up out of the cave and went on his way. David arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, my Lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. Now, this ain't no face-to-face encounter. This is some distance between them now. But after Saul and them leave the cave, David and them come out the cave. And David, hey, Saul and his men turn around. David bows to him in honoring him, right? And David said to Saul, wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Why are you listening to men trying to tell you that that I want to hurt you? It's David speaking to Saul, right? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen that the Lord have delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me kill thee, but mine eyes spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee. Yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea? Meaning David is saying, who you think you trying to kill? a dead dog will flee. Like, you treat me like I'm nothing. Don't come at me like I'm nothing. Everybody understands. Verse 14, verse 15. The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. Like, David showed tremendous honor and respect and loyalty in that he could have killed Saul if he wanted to. He could have took vengeance into his own hands, but that wasn't in the heart of David. That wasn't the character of who he was. Everybody understands. Let's we're gonna save 1 Samuel 24, 10 and 11. Verse Samuel 24, 10 through 12. We're gonna save that. And then we're gonna get hold on, we're gonna get uh Romans 12 and 19. This was David showing that he was a man after the Lord's own heart. These lessons that we learn from the life of David were reiterated throughout the time of Israel. Everybody understands? A lot of what David exemplified, a lot of the examples that David set are ones that we should follow even to today, and the words of his acts are echoed throughout the scriptures, like we're about to read here in Romans chapter 12, verse 19. All right. Romans 12 and 19, the example of what this looks like is what David did with Saul in that cave. Everybody understands. And David having the opportunity, this man being delivered into his hands, but David having pity on him. Everybody understands. Hold on. Romans chapter 12, verse 19. All right. Romans 12 and 19 says, Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in doing so, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Everybody understands. What does it look like to not avenge yourselves? There are going to be opportunities and situations where someone has it out for you. Somebody's gunning for you. Somebody's trying to, do something evil to you. You stand with the Lord and let the Lord be on your side. The Lord will deliver them into your hands. It may not be as drastic a situation as the one with David and Saul, and the Lord may not have you to kill somebody, but it could be somebody on your slavery or somebody in your family, somebody in your life who they always trying to do something sideways. The Lord will give an opportunity for you to be able to do something sideways. Be the bigger person. Don't be petty. Don't stoop to the level of someone who is beneath you, the level of somebody who is evil and wicked and a sinner. The Lord deliver them into your hands. You let them know, because I serve the Lord, I'm not going to take vengeance. I'm not you. I know if the shoe was on the other foot, you'd have my head right now. You'd have me, down bad. But because I serve the Lord, I'm not you. And I won't do the thing that you would do. But just know that the Lord is with me and that I could, if I was less, could have destroyed you. And you got to fight the urge sometimes to be petty. Fight the urge to be tit for tat. When the opportunity comes, show that you really with the Lord and you understand what he's doing in your life by being the bigger person. You'll teach a lesson to somebody who's evil that, damn, I have been wrong. I am evil. I am disgusting for this. Everybody understands. And then David teaching that lesson to Saul, David spared Saul's life. And Saul was able to acknowledge his sin before David. And the Lord killed Saul anyway. David didn't even have to lay a finger on him. You understand? Kapatazar.
So like I said, so would he have been wrong for killing him?
No. Okay. David would have been justified in killing him. But David would have had to deal with the pain of killing him. Okay. It was too much for David. You understand what I'm saying? David would have been right before the Lord and everybody else. but David wouldn't have been right with it. And that's being a man, meaning, again, the Lord looks at the inward parts. David couldn't do it because he couldn't live with knowing that he killed the anointed of the Lord. David still looked at Saul like, the Lord chose you to be the king, huh? Even if the Lord has now chosen me, you still was chosen by the Lord. I can't put my hand against you. What good am I as a man of God if I kill another man of God? That's what was in David's mind. David couldn't put a hand on Saul because he would have to live with that. He couldn't live with it. And it's like the scene in Boys in the Hood. They killed Ricky, right? Yeah. They ride in that car and they out for blood. Trading broke out his father's house and hopped in the truck and hopped in the back of the lowrider. They loading the guns. They going to look for Ricky's killers. But Trey had a heart. Trey knew he wasn't built for no violence and no killing. So Trey said, what? Let me out, though. Right. You got to let me out. And in life, you'll have a let me out moment where it's going to be unpopular. And people might look at you like you Saul. What the hell? You let me out, bro. Because I can't live with this. I'm not built for this. And that's righteous. It's righteous to acknowledge, man, I ain't built for this, man. I can't live with that. Too many of our people are living with things that they can't live with. That's why they get high. That's why they run from their problems and run from their situations in life, because they can't live with it. If you're a man after the Lord's own heart, you'll know what you can't live with, and you won't put yourself through that. That was David and Saul. Everybody understands. And that's all of us with certain things in our lives. We all know what we can't live with. Whatever you can't live with, don't live with it. Fight it. Everybody understands. The Lord will he'll deliver you from it if you want to be delivered. Another thing we got to realize is some of us don't want to be delivered from the things we can't live with. Some of us are defined by the things we can't live with. You understand? Victims of molestation can't not live with that molestation. You understand? These LGBTQs, right? They don't know how to not be a victim of molestation. That's why they wear makeup. That's why he puts on girl clothes, because he's defined by having been molested. He doesn't, even if he could get healed or could change his life and no longer be the person that was molested and raped and be born again, they wouldn't even do it, because what am I if I'm not this? You know what I'm saying? What am I if I'm not the LGBTQ guy? What am I if I don't put on this makeup and wear this dress? How can I be a man? I don't know how to be a man. You want to live with being a victim of molestation. There's some people who have a history of drug addiction. They are defined by that drug addiction. I've been getting high 30 years. I've been getting high my whole life. So, you can't stop getting high? Because you've been getting high 30 years. Well, what about a year of not getting high? What about a day, 2 days, a week of not getting high? You've been getting high for 30 years. What has gotten you? Nothing. What if you got a week of not getting high? Just do 1 day at a time of not getting, but they don't want to let go of being defined by the thing that they can't live with, because that's what has become their life. A victim of child molestation either rejects it and fights it, or they become defined by it. Someone who's an addict, they either reject it and they fight against being an addict, or they be defined as an addict. Same thing with alcoholism, and a man with daddy issues, a man who's a womanizer, a woman who's promiscuous, who has sex with anybody. All of that stuff, the thing they can't live with stems from some traumatic event in their life. But if you're not going to fight against that thing, then it will be what defines you. David fought against Saul wanting to kill him. He could have been defined by it. Everybody understands. But David knew he couldn't live with it, and David put it in the Lord's hands, and putting it in the Lord's hands is what gave David victory over. Gave him power to conquer it. Everybody understands. Let's drop that now. David was a warrior. David was merciful. Hold on, let's go another scripture about go to the Lord's mercy. All right. Uh, uh, There's a word that I love in the Bible. um, that is, it's a damn near perfect word in English to describe the Lord's mercy, right? And it's what David showed to Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 24. All right, let's go to Psalm 51. This is a scripture from last week. And what we talked about last week with Psalms 51 is what led to me wanting to teach this class and to really dive into David and his history and his story to get a full understanding of why David was revered as a man after the Lord's own heart. You understand? We talked about how David wasn't a perfect man by any stretch of the imagination. David had some things that he did in his life that was unrighteous. Sometimes in it, Shalaki in his life, where David turned his back on the righteousness of the Lord and forgot moments of weakness where he forgot who he was and what his responsibility was to the people. But in those times when David fell, in the times when Lord in David's weakness, David never made excuses. David never David never shunned accountability. David took full responsibility for his wrongdoing, and David accepted the punishment or whatever the Lord had to come along with his sinning. And that's what was honorable about David. David wasn't a cat that woe is me. When David fell on hard times, David understood. David knew it's the Lord. And then David calling to the Lord and crying to the Lord and praying to the Lord is where we get a lot of the book of Psalms. None of these Psalms is why me? Why is this happening to me? David understood, man. I know why these things are happening. I just pray the Lord get me through it. I pray the Lord to be with me, to give me the strength to overcome. But David never cried about his condition or cried about his situations. And that was also something that was after the Lord's own heart. Everybody understands? Psalm chapter 51, verse 1 says, I have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness. According unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Everybody understands? The word there, when David asked for mercy, the Lord recognized the Lord's loving kindness, right? What is loving kindness? Loving kindness. Anybody ever heard of tough love? That's not the Lord's mercy. You understand? The Lord's mercy isn't tough love. The Lord's mercy is loving kindness. Everybody understands? What's the difference between tough love and loving kindness? Because loving kindness is what the Lord gives us. Sis.
Being passionate and sincere.
Passionate and sincere. Okay. How does passion play into kindness? It's okay. Anybody else? What is loving kindness? Here's the difference between tough love and loving kindness, right? Tough love is you do something you ain't supposed to do, and something bad results from it, right? Tough love is, I told you, you stupid. You always doing what you're told not to do. Didn't I tell you not to do that? Now look at what done happened. That's what you get. Now pick yourself up, brush yourself off. Don't do it again. I told you, you ain't want to listen. That's what you get. That's tough love, right? Loving kindness is never bringing up that I told you so. Loving kindness is, I see what happened. It hurt, don't it? I know. Don't worry. It's okay. It's gonna be all right. That's loving kindness. It's the difference between tough love and loving kindness. You understand?
Like a mother's love compared to the father's, like, you know what I mean? He gonna yell at you, but your mama gonna be like, oh boy, you hurt yourself. Your daddy gonna be like, nigga, you shouldn't have been out there, you know what I mean?
No, because a father can have loving kindness too.
Right, but
the kindness part is what's important. Okay. Meaning this. Having been on this journey, right? Being in the truth, transitioning from being in the world and having the Lord's experiencing the Most High's mercy and His grace. Meaning what? Since we've all, I'm gonna speak for myself. Since I learned the truth, I have not been perfect. I have sinned. I have fallen. I have done things that I know better not to do. I know, I'm evil for that, right? And in my mind, I know the Lord is going to hurt me. Lord, I should die. I'm afraid because I know I've sinned. Now I'll pray and I'll ask the Lord to forgive me. I'll fast but the Lord never mocks you in your falling short, right? Meaning, even when you suffer for things that you know you've done wrong, it's never I can't bounce back from this. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning, okay, knowing the truth, knowing the truth makes living as a sinner harder because, okay, I'm trying to find a way. I'm trying to find a way to not say it's better to be a sinner and know the truth than to be a sinner in the world. I feel like what I'm about to say is gonna come across like, yeah, I gotta fight. I gotta find a way to say this professionally that you understand, right? Because it would sound evil to be like, yeah, you sin, but the Lord got me. That's not what I'm saying, right? Meaning, okay, when you're in the world and when you're in the world and you are overtaken by something in the flesh, meaning you have some demon you can't win in the world. There is no way out. Again, if you're an addict or you're suffering from some trauma, some tragedy, it's hopeless to see your way out of this evil that has clouded your life, right? You was raised, your daddy wasn't there, your mama never cared about you, you never really had anybody to love you. So in your life, you're seeking love. You're seeking somebody to care for you, to look after you. But everybody who you give your love to, everybody who you care for, they abuse you and take advantage of you and use you up. And it's like, damn, how can I ever find somebody that ever cares about me? Because I give my all, but they shit on me. It's like, there is no love in this world. There is nobody that cares about you. That's when you're in the world, that can be how life is, because who's honorable and righteous there? You come into the truth, you get to understand, well, damn, my daddy was a drug addict and my mother was, poor and in poverty. And she had a bunch of kids. Of course, they couldn't give me the love that I needed. Of course, I couldn't. Of course, they couldn't nurture me and care for me the way that I needed to be cared for. You come into the truth and you're able to get counsel, and you have people in your life who genuinely care for you, who there for you, who got your back. And it's like, damn, man, you begin to experience real love for the first time. And it's like, damn, there are some good people in this world. Maybe I will find someone who loves me or cares about me. Like you get to have another insight on life, is what I'm trying to say, right? The hopelessness that you have in the world is not what you have in the truth. In the truth, you know that anything you face can be conquered. You know that anything you face you can overcome it, but the burden is on you to be the one to overcome it. It's not that I can't, it's not that it's hopeless, it's not that I don't have no way out. When am I going to decide that I'm fed up with this? When am I going to stop being weak? When am I going to stop allowing myself to be overtaken? That's loving kindness. Am I making sense with that? Meaning there's a hopelessness in the world of, you know, why would I change anything if I can't expect no different result? I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing because it ain't going to make a difference anyway. In the truth, there is the choice of, you could just stop sinning. You could just stop being a disgusting bastard. Maybe your life is the way it is because of your decisions. Maybe your life ain't the way it is because your mama wasn't there and your daddy didn't never hugged you and nobody ever cared for you. Maybe all the people that you love in life use you up because you love shitty people. Maybe you love shitty people because you got low self-esteem and don't think you deserve love from anybody that's worthy. Like the truth allow you to be able to see the other side that now puts the accountability on you. That's loving kindness. Loving kindness is the Lord allowing us to take accountability for our own suffering. You understand? That comes through learning the truth. I don't need to be yelled at about being a sinner. I don't need to be checked about you evil, like you weak. I know. I know. The Lord, I got to live with the fact that I'm an evil, disgusting bastard. I don't need anybody else checking me to make me feel bad about it. I feel bad about it because it's in my conscience. That's what was in David. What was in David, the why he couldn't kill Saul was he would know that he was a disgusting bastard in his own eyes. The truth makes you look at yourself and say, man, you better than that. I can't believe you still, you, come on, bro. I'm, you've been in the truth 14 years and you still doing this? What the, I mean, the Lord, how you gonna fumble this? You gonna fumble the blessing the Lord gave you? The Lord allowed you to know the truth and to do this and to do that and escape this and escape that, and you still gonna throw it all away for what? Like, God damn, how weak are you? How disgusting are you? That's in my mind. That's what's in my head. I don't need to get checked and to be told this and that. I know what I'm doing. That pain is what was going to make me fight. That's from the Lord. That's the Lord's mercy. The Lord's mercy is I'm not dead, but I should be. And Lord, I shouldn't even. That's David's cry in Psalms 51. Psalms 51 is David like, please clean me. Because I'm disgusting. I'm lower than dirt. I'm nothing. But I know that you see something in me. That's why I'm not dead. Cleanse me, wash me thoroughly, wipe away my sins, blot out my transgressions. That's honorable to the Lord. That's a right spirit to have. To be, that's contrition. Let's get the definition of the word contrition, because the next scripture we go. So we got Psalms 51 and 1, right, about the Lord's mercy. David asked for the Lord's mercy to be upon him according to his loving kindness, right? Loving kindness comes to someone who is contrite. Same verse, same chapter, Psalms 51, but down verse 15, all right? Verse 17. Psalms 51 and 17 says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit. What causes someone's spirit to be broken? What breaks your spirit is you letting yourself down. That's what breaks your spirit. What breaks your spirit is you going lower than even you can live with. Your spirit is broken when you get rock bottom is you knowing it's fucked up. Excuse my language. How did I get here? There's no way I'm this person. There's no way I'm doing this, man. Come on. There's no way God put me here to be living like this. At some point, we all have gotten to that place in our life. Wherever it was, whatever you were going through, you was something in your life that made you sick to your stomach at yourself. You said, man, I can't do this shit no more, man. Ain't no fucking way. I'd rather die than to live like this. That is a broken spirit. Everybody understands? And in the moment of your spirit being broken, that's when the Lord is there to be merciful with his loving kindness. You understand what I'm saying? You don't need somebody to come and say, look at you at rock bottom, you piece of shit. No, you say that to yourself. That's the Lord's loving kindness. I could be dead, but I'm not. That's the Lord's mercy. The Lord's loving kindness is I can't keep doing this. This is it. I gotta get up. I gotta shake this thing off of me. Everybody understands? Psalms 51 and 17. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. Oh God, thou wilt not despise. What is a contrite heart? Let's get the definition of the word contrite. All right. The word contrition comes from contrite. All right. Hold on. Hey, 2 minutes, bro. 5 minutes. I'm gonna give you a call right back. I'm teaching class.
Okay.
Answer when I call you back, bro.
Got you.
All right.
I got you.
All right. All right. Let's get it. So this is contrite in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. All right. Contrite. All right. Contrite says feeling or showing sorrow and remorse for improper or objectionable behavior and actions. Everybody understands? Feeling or showing sorrow and remorse for improper or objectionable behavior and actions. A broken spirit and a contrite heart is you saying to the Lord, I'm sorry I did this. I know better. I knew better. And I don't care who you are, where you was raised, what kind of upbringing you had. That's a spiritual thing that we go through. You didn't need to grow up in church to know that that thing you were doing was wrong. That thing you was doing was beneath you. Whatever that thing was in your life that broke your spirit, that was a spiritual thing that made you say, something inside of you said, I'm better than this. And you not being able to live with yourself that way was the Lord's mercy. The Lord's loving kindness. There's some people who are doing things that are beneath them. They are living a very foul and disgusting life, but they okay with it. You understand? There's some people, that's how they get by. Think of the child molesters and the rapists. They okay with it. They ain't stopping. They ain't trying to seek help. They ain't trying to get healed. There's some people, they getting high right now. They loving being high. They finna go get high and go buy a prostitute. They finna go high, get high, and do something strange for some change. They loving it. They all about it. We, however, we could be doing that. That could be our life. But instead, we in class reading the Bible, trying to get right with God. At some point in our life, we realize that this life that I'm living is beneath me. And I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be this person. That was the Lord's mercy. That was his loving kindness because he allowed for you to recognize it in yourself and decide to get right. The beautiful thing about the ISUPK or the Commanding General Yohana is everybody is here because they want to be here. There ain't no prison program that make you come sit in class. There ain't no drug. You ain't go to court and they say 120 days in the ISUPK. No. You here because something happened in your life to where the spirit in you said, I can't do this anymore. And you sought out a way to get better. You sought out a way to accept the Lord's mercy. Man, that's a beautiful thing. That's loving kindness. David's mercy to Saul was loving kindness. David could have beat Saul half to death and then been like, nigga, I could kill you right now. David was loving and kind. David's love was kind. David cut the skirt, waited till the nigga left, and then came out and was like, nigga, I could have killed you. You trying to kill me. Why? I love you. That was loving kindness. He bowed to him, showed him honor. That was loving kindness. Everybody understands. That's David. You understand? Also, too, I'm mad I missed this when it came up. When David bowed to Saul, it was how we salute each other today. When we salute each other, David did that to Saul. David called Saul and said, sir, father. He called him father. I mean, come on, man. This cat was your enemy. This cat was trying to kill you. David showed the Lord's kind of mercy to Saul. It wasn't, I told you so. It wasn't, nigga, I could took your life. It was, come on, like, you supposed to be my brother, man. You the Lord's anointed. You hunting me. You listen to the niggas tell you that I'm trying to kill you. I could have killed you. I had the Lord delivered you into my hands. But I couldn't live with myself having killed you, brother. I don't want to beef with you. And in that, Saul repented for the evil that he did in trying to kill David. But the Lord eventually, because of his evil, the Lord killed Saul. Everybody understands. But David was a perfect example of not taking vengeance into your own hands, all right? We got 3 minutes left. I'm going to try to go a little bit over the time, but not too much because I do got to get out of here, right? But David's story wasn't... Okay, so we know about David's warrior spirit. We know about David's loving kindness and David being merciful and not taking vengeance. But in David's time of fault, in David's times of weakness, and the times when David lost the battle with his flesh and sinned against the Lord, David took accountability. David was never a man that shied away from taking responsibility for his actions. And that also factors heavily into David being a man after the Lord's own heart. Let's get let's see something. Oh man. Hold on. Damn. All right, let's get 2 Samuel chapter 12. All right, hold up. Uh, man. All right, let's read 2 Samuel chapter 12. I got to read the whole thing down. We're going to start at verse 1 down to verse 23. All right. It's really the whole 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter. But we're going to read from verse 1 down to verse 23. All right. I'm just going to put it in my notes. First, 2 Samuel 12, the whole chapter. All right. Now, again, David was not a perfect man. David sinned and David did evil. And it's, okay, understand this, right? None of us were expected to be perfect from our birth. Let's put that out there. None of us were born in the truth, raised in the truth. How could we be perfect, right? But the Lord, in being a father, wants to see us fight to get right. He wants to see us overcome failure. He wants to see how we deal with adversity. He wants to see how we overcome setbacks and struggles. And he wants to see if you're going to fight or if you're going to give up. And so it's inevitable coming out of the world that you're not going to be able to flip a switch and become perfect overnight. That's what grace is about. Grace is a time that the Lord gives you to work out all your BS. You lived in the world. I lived in the world 23 years before I came into the truth. I've been in the truth 14 years. And I'm still fighting some of that 23 years. Some of you that spent a little bit longer in the world, it might be a little bit longer that you're going to have to fight all those years in the world. Never let Satan play you into thinking that not being perfect now means you'll never be perfect. You understand? You're not perfect now. Who said you should be? But if you're not fighting to be perfect now, you'll never become perfect. The goal is to keep fighting to get there, right? The Lord is in it for the fight. He's in it for the longevity of the battle. He's not in it for, oh, you ain't start yesterday. Oh, nigga, give up. Satan will tell you to give up. Satan will say, look at you. It's been 3 years, 4 years. Well, goddamn, what is 3 years compared to the 40, nigga, you had me in the world? Damn, don't let Satan beat you up over 3 years when he was ruling over you for 40. You understand? I'm not going to let Satan beat me up over my short time in the truth when he had me in the world for 23. And he did a number on me, so damn, I can only imagine, give yourself some credit. Don't let Satan beat you down and make you feel like because you didn't do it yesterday, you'll never do it. Damn that. That's what you got to fight through. That's what the Lord want to see if you're going to fight through. And if you got the spirit like David had, you won't let a moment of sin or a moment of failing the Lord stop you from reaching to be perfect. Everybody understands? 2 Samuel chapter 12, starting at verse 1. Let me go ahead and get it here. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "And the Lord sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him, and with his children. It did drink of his own meat and drink of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter." So we understand the difference between these two men. One man is rich and has an abundance. One man is poor and doesn't have very much. But that one that he has, man, he love it. It's special to him. Everybody understands. Verse 4, "And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, As the Lord liveth, that man that have done this thing shall surely die. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he had no pity." David, in righteousness, was angry about this story. How dare this rich man do this poor brother like this? He's a disgusting, evil bastard. Everybody understands. Verse 7, "And Nathan said to David, Thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives from before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this sun. For thou did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, The Lord also hath put away thy sin, thou shalt not die." You understand? Now, two things to take from this, right? Nathan coming to David, right? First thing is, whatever you think you're doing in private, nigga, it ain't private. You understand? David thought that what he was doing with Bathsheba, he thought he was slick. Nigga, everybody saw it, but you think you the only nigga that saw her on that balcony butt naked taking the bath? And you think you think that after the hoe was on the balcony butt naked, she ended up in your coming before the king's gate. You think niggas ain't know what was going on? You think when Uriah came home from the battle, niggas ain't see the jukes already? You think when Uriah came and was sleeping out front of the gate, and then you sent them to die, and now to hoe your wife, nigga, David, who you trying to play? Nathan saw this whole thing go down. But the Lord was with Nathan in how to confront David about it. You understand? Your sin, the Lord see it. You think the Lord ain't got men of God who know what you're doing, who know what your sin is? What you think you get? The Lord just might not be ready to check you publicly on it. But whatever your dark thing is, come on out. Who you fooling? Who you playing? Yeah. I remember my time when I was close to the generals up there in the Philadelphia school. I used to dread coming to the school sometimes because they would read my spirit, meaning I'm going through it at the crib. Whether I'm going through it with my rib or I'm going through it with her finding out about another rib, or me taking on a rib, and I'm dealing with the stress of it, and I don't want to get counsel because I married abroad and she in the world. Whatever it was I'm going through, I would come to the school, and every time without fail, I could just come to the door, ring the doorbell, they come over the door, shalom, sir, step in. You know what I'm saying? How you doing? I'm Tawab, sir, everything good? You sure? Yeah, sir, I'm straight, I'm good. You sure? I'm Tawab, sir, I'm straight. Listen, get some call to Muhammad and get some counsel. Like when Muhammad say, you talk to me, you talk to me. And every time it cut me because it's like, these niggas reading through me, man. I didn't know I'm going through something. I try my best to pump myself up. Like, I ain't gonna let them know this time. They would know it. And now having been in the truth some time and having raised brothers up, I see what you're going through. I see what it is. Now, it ain't always the time and the place to address it. Lord don't tell me to address it, I won't address it. But I know. So you got it. But again, you have to choose the battle. You got to choose when you're ready to fight through it. But you can't hide nothing from men of the Lord. David thought he was being slick with all of this Bathsheba and Uriah business. He wasn't slick. Nathan exposed him and dealt with him on it. And the Lord told Nathan what he was going to do to David and gave David the warning. And when David was faced with it, David took accountability. You want to know what accountability is? When somebody calls you out on your evil, calls you out on your sin. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 13. 13. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. That's what your response is. I have sinned against the Lord. Take accountability. David didn't make no excuses. David didn't say, but she was naked. David, I sinned against the Lord. There wasn't nothing he could say. You understand? That's important. It's important. It's, take accountability. You understand? And that's what I try to stress to brothers and sisters, particularly with relationships, right? As a man, you got a woman, you go get another woman out. You just wanted to get another woman. Don't blame it on the woman you got. Well, she always want to argue. Who cares? If she was perfect and peaceful, you'd still go get another woman. Just learn to be honest with yourself. Be real about your situations and your circumstances. Stop deflecting and blaming. The most important thing that all of us can do is come to grips with who we are. You can just accept yourself. There might be some things you don't like, but if you can accept them about yourself, then now you can begin to be honest about it. You understand? And being in the truth is going to force you to face some difficult things about yourself. Some things you're not going to like about yourself, but you got to be accepting these things about yourself is not blaming anyone. You can't change how you was raised. You can't change how you was brought up. You can't change the culture. You can't change your influences. All you can do is say, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to live. I know what I can change and what I can't. I can't change loving women. I wish I could be a one-woman man and just one woman, and I can't do it. So I gotta now what I can do is control what women I choose, what women I decide to involve myself with. I can not choose women that ain't going to be around. I could stop choosing. I could. You accept what there is about yourself, and then fight the battle that you can fight. The battle I can't fight is I'll never get another woman. I can't. I'll lose. But I can fight the battle of I'll only choose a worthy woman. How do I know she's a worthy woman? I got to get counsel. I got to go through this. I got to 6 months and have these conversations. You build parameters around the battles you can fight. If when it comes to addiction, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drugs, you can't say, I'll never get high. Don't start with I'll never get high again. Start with I'll get a little less high than I did yesterday. And then you get, okay, I've been getting this high for the last 2 months. Maybe I get a little less high. I got more accomplished in the last 2 months since I started getting a little less high. Maybe I can get a less higher. I used to smoke an ounce a week. Man, maybe I can just go to a half an ounce. And get down to half an ounce for a while. You know what? Maybe I can go to a quarter ounce. Right? Maybe a quarter ounce is too bad. It's too much of a jump from a half an ounce. Maybe I go to, a quarter and an eighth, a quarter and 3/8. You gotta wean yourself off of it. Don't try to just erase. You've been drinking your whole life. Don't just, I'll never drink again. Stop it. You're gonna get drunk tomorrow. How about I just get a little less drunk? How about instead of me having control of how much I drink, I'll say, hey, buying a fifth, but only let me have 3 shots. If I fight, argue, whatever, do not let me have more than this. And like, that's an example. Don't do that in your life. Get counsel. If you want to fight addiction, you want to fight alcoholism, you want to fight loving whores or loving to choose women who aren't going to stick around, get counsel on how to fight it. What I'm telling you, though, is there are parameters that you can put in place to help you fight the things you're struggling against. The first thing, though, is you have to accept and acknowledge the truth about who you are. You cannot fight drug addiction unless you acknowledge I am a drug addict. You cannot fight an alcohol addiction unless you accept I am an alcoholic. Everybody understands? Deal with the reality, and then you can begin to fight the battle that you're capable of fighting. But if you can't accept the truth about your sin, then how can you repent? David was confronted with his sin. David said, I sinned. David didn't say, well, man, I've been getting hold my whole life. Every woman I want, I've been able to get. David said, I sinned. And Nathan said, the Lord ain't going to kill you. But here's what he is going to do. And the Lord, Nathan pronounced David's punishment. And David took it. You understand? The punishment was, you took that man's wife, niggas going to have your wives. Guess what? David didn't go kill nobody that slept with his wives after this. David didn't go wage war against niggas. That David accepted, this is the punishment for my evil. When Christ met the woman, when they brought the woman that was found in adultery before Christ, Christ said, he is who without sin cast the first stone. Right? Having sinned and having known that you've sinned will cause you to be cautious about how you judge someone else's sin. But if you're someone who hasn't even faced your sin, you'll be cruel to someone else about their sin. That's why Christ said, judge, lest ye be judged. You better be careful how you deal with people on what they're going through, right? Because the Lord will deal with you on what you're going through. How dare you shame this person, shame this brother, shame this sister for their evil when you know you got evil? Where's your compassion? Where's your loving kindness? Where's your mercy? That's important when it comes to matters of the Spirit, matters of the Lord, fighting to be righteous. Everybody understands. David was confronted on his sin. David took accountability, and then David accepted the consequences. Part of what comes with taking accountability and acknowledging your sin is also accepting the consequences. There's going to be pain. There's going to be hurt. It's going to be difficult to repent from something evil that you've done. But if it ain't death, what you crying about? If it ain't death, it could be worse. Let's continue to read and see how David dealt with the consequences of his sin, right? 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 14. Howbeit by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. The child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died, and the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore he said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came into his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. So David, after Nathan left, David immediately was sad, immediately was depressed. His wife got sick. David started to fast, right? This is the repenting. This is the broken spirit. This is the contrite heart. David is punishing himself. He's not eating 7 days, 7 nights. He's not talking to nobody. His servants are coming to check on him. He doesn't want to be checked on. They scared that to tell him the boy died, because if he hurt himself because the boy was sick, he may do worse now that he found the boy was dead. But when David found the boy was dead, the time for being sad is over with. The time for mourning, David's spirit was broken, and he was contrite for the child. Once the child's life was gone, for David, it is what it is. It's done. That was the Lord's will. David shook it off, not because he didn't care or because he was heartless, but that was the Lord's business. I thought I could do something. I thought I could save the child by fasting, by praying. The Lord killed the child, and it's done now. Give me some food. He got up, showered, bathed, put some oil on, got dressed in his normal clothes, went and worshiped before the Lord, and then it's time to eat. Now, I jumped ahead a little bit. So David ate, right? We had 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 21. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou did fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou did rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Why should I fast now? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. Everybody understand? What does David mean? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. David is saying, one day I'll join the child. One day I'm going to die too, and I'll join my child. But I can't bring that child back from the dead. Everybody understands? That's a different way of dealing with death. That's a different way of dealing with adversity. It's one thing to, why me, Lord? Why? Why don't take, why? Okay. David understood this child may lose its life because of me. So if my evil inflicted this pain on this child, maybe my suffering could save this child. David fasted and not eaten. In his mind, if I punish myself, maybe the Lord will spare the child. Once the child died, David also had the spirit to know, well, I can't punish myself no more. It's over with. The child is gone. Let me shake it off. You can't dwell too long in any sadness and any sorrow, especially when you know it's the Lord's business. You understand? You fast, you do what you can while you can. But when the Lord show you this ain't on you, you gotta let it go. And there's things in life that the Lord gonna show you this is out of your hands. And you gotta let it go. Fast if you can. Fast if you think it's gonna help something. But the Lord show you, I don't care how much you fast, you can't change what I'm doing to this person or doing to this situation. You gotta let it go. Don't carry around the weight of something that the Lord has released you from. The Lord told David, I'm gonna take this boy. That boy got sick and David fasted. When the boy died, David shook it off and had to get back to business. Everybody understands. In this, though, David took accountability and David accepted the Lord's punishment. David accepted what the Lord required. The Lord is going to require something of you if you're going to overcome your sin, if you're going to repent from the evil that you've been doing. When the Lord requires what he requires, man, give it to him. Don't fight the Lord on what he needs in order for you to be free from that thing that's plaguing you, from that sin that you can't escape from. Everybody understands? And don't be afraid. A lot of the times, the sin in our life that we are trying to overcome is like Goliath on that battlefield. There's some things in life that we are afraid to confront, afraid to fight because we think it's too big for me to overcome. It's too big for me to get over this thing. You got to have the courage of David. You got to have the zeal of David to know if I am the chosen of the Lord, then what can stand before me? I don't care how strong and how big and how mighty this thing is that you're fighting. If the Lord is with you, then who could be against you? You understand what I'm saying? That's the zeal that David had. That's gonna wrap it up for tonight's class. Again, clap it up. David was the last king of unified Israel, and it's because of the character and the life of David that the Lord promised that the kingdom would never pass from the hands of David's descendants. Our King Yahweh Shah Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ, was a man that was of the blood of David, of the spirit of David. You understand? And in like fashion, Christ was the perfection of what David desired to be. Christ was all the things that made David great. And because of David's failures, Christ was none of the things that made David weak. Everybody understand? Christ was a man who did not deal with women when he was on the earth. Maybe because he understood that I can't handle it. I can't control it. That brother went without sex, and he was the king of Israel. Maybe the Lord needs you to go without something. I think that's something I got to go without. I got to learn some discipline to conquer the things in my life. I ain't got to do what Christ did, though. Salakia. So I got the Lord got something else I got to give up. Maybe I got to give up some things though. I got to get right. I got to get better. Find what the Lord is trying to loose you from and get loose from it. But learn from David the lessons that it takes to be a man that's after the Lord's own heart. All of us were called into the truth because the Lord sees in us what he saw in David. Don't let the outward appearance and what the world sees and how they perceive you determine who you're going to be. Let what the Lord sees inside of you come out and let that determine who it is that you're going to be. With that, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York, since 1969, we've been teaching so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes in the nation of Israel. And in the year 2024, there's nothing more important than for God's chosen people to learn the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is on the earth. We have these classes here in Memphis every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 6 to 8. You brothers and sisters got family, loved ones, people you care about in the Memphis, Tennessee, and surrounding areas. Get them in contact with us. With that, Israel, shalom.